All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So I just started the recording on my computer, so I missed out on the prayers. So if the recording on YouTube does not go well, then at least I have this on my computer. It might be without the prayers, but it's going to be all right. So how's everyone doing here and at home, on this planet, on other planets? That's good. So we're currently covering the section. It's very good, Chris, that you're doing okay. Thank you very much. We've covering the section on making offering. I think that it's quite straightforward. So I think that there's not a lot that I can say on top of what the text is saying. I think that it's quite straightforward. A few points that I read through at home, and I thought it'd be nice maybe to draw upon a few of them. Kempo Kunpel's explanation is pretty amazing, I have to say. It's like reading a transcript of an Indian movie, a Bollywood movie. So, there's a lot of bling in his presentation, like really nice bling. So I thought of maybe bringing some of those sources here. I'll put them on the screen. Also for you guys at home, I think that we have access to this material, so you can read it also at home. But I thought that it's a really inspiring way, teaches us how to make offerings, which I think that, as I said in the previous week, for people like me who's coming from a non-Asian tradition, it's always, I think, a challenge to know how to arrange them well and how to zhuzh everything up and how to kind of offer them in a more sincere way. So it's still, at least as far as I'm concerned, for me, it's work in progress. So having those sources that I can draw upon and kind of inform my meditation is always helpful. I think that also we're looking at where we are. We have people here that attend those teachings at Chenrezig Institute, and we have many of our students and friends online, but we have also people that are found in Sydney. We have Avis and Marianne, and people that are not only in Australia, but also in other places. So I guess that you're attending different centers. You might be connected with different teachers, and it's not that there's only one absolutely correct way of arranging offerings and altar, and all the rest are not correct. So we come across different ways of doing that, and sometimes it's easy to get bogged in one way, in one system, and thinking that if you do it slightly differently, then you're doing it all wrong. So I thought of, maybe we can discuss some of those points. Maybe we can also you can look at also different images of ways that offerings are made, and also do some readings in order to just kind of help your mind. Also, last week we had a bit of discussion in Geshe-la's class, and also after that with the tutorial, and I said that, in relation to some of the questions that came up, I said that some of it is pretty much common sense. So Paul Stevenson and also Shannon asked a few questions. They asked it also, I think, Geshe-la's session. Can't remember if the questions were asked also in my session. And when I said it's common sense, I didn't mean to belittle the people asking those questions. So if you got offended, I'm sorry. I'm not saying that Paul or Shannon got offended, but after that I thought that maybe it was a bit harsh. But I think that Paul also sent me a message after that in email and said, I know Paul for many years, and I know that environmental issues are, for him, are at the forefront of what he does. He does a lot of amazing things. So I think, he said that the point that he was trying to push forward is also being sustainable in the way that we make offerings. So when we buy material for different things to offer for pujas, when we distribute them, then also we should be aware of the environmental cost of even making those offerings. So I think that, it still falls under the banner of being sensible, but not only sensible, also responsible, and at least trying to do our best. It's quite hard. I think that it's quite hard, particularly for the people that have to buy the offering, arrange for the offering, and so forth. I think that in a perfect world where we have lots of people working together with a lot of time and so forth, we can all try to do better, to do our best, and I guess that we are trying. Still work in progress also on that front. So anyway, so what I thought of doing today was to first of all look at the water bowl offering that we arrange on the altar, then to look at the offerings that we make at the second chapter of Shantideva's text to see how they fit together. Because after all, in the previous week I said that when you take it up as a meditation manual and you incorporate that into your daily practice, your daily practice might also involve with meditating on bodhicitta and taking upon yourself again the bodhisattva vow, right? So you can follow this text that Shantideva is presenting here also as something to inform your daily meditation, which is excellent. We have an authoritative source that we can use for daily practice. So, and that's also why I chose just to say a few words about arranging altars at different places and so forth. It's interesting, there's a particular way of making offerings in the FEMT organization. I think that it also follows some of it, the way that His Holiness is making offerings, definitely the way that Kyabje Lama Sopa Rinpoche is making offerings, and the way that he is making offering is pretty full on. So I remember that once in one of my visits to Taiwan, I had a look at my teacher's altar. And the way that he arranges offering is different to the way that they do it in the FEMT. So in the FEMT or in this organization, they set up when you arrange your water bowl offerings, then you shouldn't have like a gap between the water bowls, rice grain gap and so forth. When I look at the Kamakagi way of making offerings, it's just kind of put it all over the place. Wherever there's a place for making water bowls offering, putting your water bowls, it doesn't matter how much gap there is between the bowls. I asked my teacher about it and said that, well, basically the more offering you do, the better. So it's not to say that you shouldn't arrange your offering in that way. It's just kind of be relaxed about it, do your best, and I think that don't become too judgmental of others or critical of others. We are making offerings.
I just wanted to add to that.
Yeah.
One's over Rinpoche's house at Lisbon, one in Aptos. Every single ledge, every conceivable place, you've got offerings.
Yeah.
So it's similar to that.
Yeah.
Just go for it as extensively as possible. Big, small,
yeah.
all different.
I think that probably for me, if I think of the king of offerings, that would be probably Kyabje Lama Sopa Rinpoche. It's like there's no limit. Yeah. So, well, I thought, so first of all, I wanted maybe to share something on the screen, if I found, not this, but something else, if I manage to. Sorry. Let's see if I can. Maybe that will work. All right. So I just found a random image online of water bowls. Not all of them here are full of water, but when you arrange your altar, you have the first bowl for offering drinking water, right? So it all follows the Indian tradition in the way that I think that a guest would have been treated once upon a time in India, and maybe still this is the case. I don't know, maybe Madhu, you can tell me, but traditionally, at least in the Buddhist in Buddhist culture, a guest would come and then you would offer drinking water. So that's the first one. Then water for bathing or washing the feet. Then flowers, incense, light, perfume, food, and sometimes you also offer music. So often in scripture, you find a reference to those 7 or 8 types of offerings. They call it the 2 water and the 5 sense objects. So the 2 waters refer to drinking water and water for bathing the feet. So the 2 water and the offerings of the 5, the offering of the senses. So we have lamp for the battle lamps, or candles, or light illumination for the eyes, and then flowers to the head or to the crown, and food for the tongue, and music for the ears, and smells or incense for the for the nose, and I think that perfume is for the heart, isn't it? Yeah, for the heart. So so often we make, like, for example, on our altar at Shimrazek Institute, we have, I think, daily rotation of changing all the water bowls in front of images and statues and so forth. All of them are offered as water. But also something that you might encounter is that you offer those 2 as water. Then you have some bowls with rice, for example, and you present flour, then incense, an actual candle rather than water bowl. Perfume, you can have rice and a bottle of perfume instead, or you can have scented water, whatever works for you. Food, you have seen places that offer fruit or biscuits and so forth. And then you have music, right? So I thought of, first of all, just kind of maybe just showing briefly those way of making offering, because then when you look at the way that Shantideva explains the verses for making offerings in chapter number 2, then first of all, we have, in the actual making of the offerings, we have offerings of unowned substances, then offering one's own body. And then we start with the mentally emanated offerings, which is what the section that we started with today. So we offer ablution, clothing, ornaments, and scent. So that's, you could say that's coming in one section. I think that probably maybe traditionally or originally, if you think about the offerings that you arrange on the altar, that would be drinking water. You invite the guests, you give them something to drink, and then you give them a bath before you offer them food and so forth. So then you have, after the ablution, clothing, ornaments, and scents, then we have flowers, incense, food, light, inestimable parasol, music, and other stuff. So then making offerings on the altar is our reference point for thinking about the offerings that are emanated, right? So when we make those water bowl offerings on the altar, it's not the actual offering that we make. This is a base for emanating offering. This is a base for imagining our offerings. Of course, we need to arrange that as beautiful as we can, and we can also consider that to be offering, but it's not that the water bowls and what's inside them is the actual offering. It is the basis that we use in order to visualize offering and to fill the whole space in front of us with emanated offerings, right? So sometimes, rather than thinking of offerings without any reference point, or imagining offerings without any reference point, we arrange those offerings on the altar as something that will help us to think of these offerings. Let's look again at this. So we spoke of the need to make offerings. We said that the need to make offering is to accumulate the collections, to purify negativities and obscurations. Or particularly here, we need to accumulate the collections, I should say, in order to develop bodhicitta and also take upon ourselves the engaging vow, right? So then the actual making of offerings is offering unowned substances to begin with. I thought of putting up on the screen Khenpo Kumpa's text, which is very nice, as I said before. So first of all, Khenpo Kumpen says that when we're making offerings, we're making them to, in thinking of, if you take it at home to your daily meditation on taking up, developing bodhicitta and taking the bodhisattva vow, then you take the bodhisattva vows from the Buddhas and bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, and also, of course, from the master. Actually, maybe it's good to, at this point in time, to also just become clear about the different vows and who you take the different vows from. So we have 3 layers of vows, right? The first one is the pratimoksha vow. Pratimoksha vow, you might be a lay practitioner, a householder with the vow of approaching virtue, or you might be a renunciate, someone that came forward, a monk or a nun, right? So you take the vow from a master, which means from an abbot, from a master, and that would be the main person that gives you the vow. Of course, in that process, you might think that you're in the presence of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and they're witnessing you taking of the vow, but the main being that you take the vow from would be the master, the Khenpo, the abbot. That's the first layer of vow. With the second layer of vow, the main beings that you take the vow from are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. So of course, we sometimes participate in different ceremonies and rituals. Isonest is sometimes giving the Bodhisattva vow. Geshe sometimes gives them in different empowerments or rituals. We get the Bodhisattva vow. So of course, we take it also from a person, but you could say that the main beings that we take it from are Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, particularly when we do this practice at home. Those are the beings that we take the vow from. Then, with respect to the tantric vow, the mantra vow, you take it from the deities of the mandala. So for those of you who have attended empowerment before, a Hatha Yoga Tantra empowerment, because the mantra vow is given with Yoga Tantra and Hatha Yoga Tantra, but in the Tibetan tradition, we don't have many Yoga Tantra empowerments. It's mainly Hatha Yoga Tantra. So you visualize that you are facing the mandala. You do different things that the master instructs you to do, and at some point, you repeat the taking of the vow, and you take it from the deity of the mandala, or the principle of the mandala. Anyway, so here we're taking the vow from Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. So we visualize them in the space in front of us. But also, as the text says, let's put it on the screen. Not this one, sorry. Let's try to juggle between. The text that we're using, Gyatso Dhamma Rinchen. So it says, I make wholesome offerings to the ocean of qualities, to Buddhas, to Tathagatas, to the Holy Dhamma, and we said in the previous week, to the Dhamma, particularly to Dhamma that is to the actual Dhamma jewel, which are true paths and true cessations. This is an ocean of qualities, true paths and true cessations. To the stainless jewels, which is the Sangha and the Buddha's children. It's actually interesting here that the Buddha's children, the Bodhisattvas, are set apart from the Sangha. Are they different to the Sangha? Well, what do you think? Are they different to the Sangha, or are they also the Sangha jewel? Yeah, the Sangha jewel, but particularly here it seems that Shantideva here separates them out just to emphasize the Bodhisattvas. After all, we train in the mind of enlightenment, but they're still part of the Sangha. Then Geshe-la also was including within that hears and solitude realizes. So we also, if we want to create merit, if we want to gather the collection, then we offer to those that have ocean of qualities, including hears and solitude realizes, aryas, arhats, and also to the gurus, to the lamas. So we can think that in the space in front of us, there is also the master that we have taken the vow from, and the lineage lamas, all the great beings. So we can also visualize them in front of us. So Chris is saying that he thought that stainless jewel was realizations. Stainless jewel, let's put it. It says, to which object, since one makes offerings to the Tathagatas and the holy superior beings. Also the holy Dhamma jewel, meaning the Mahayana truth of cessation that is free from adventitious stain. So I said that, yeah, this is the stainless jewel. Okay, I see what you're saying, Chris. On top of being naturally pure, and the truth of path is the object of offering. Yeah, sorry. So I take your point. I probably misread this verse. So the Tathagatas, the holy Dhamma, which is the stainless jewel, right? So the stainless jewel is not the Sangha, it's the reference to the holy Dhamma, the stainless jewel. So not only realization, Chris, realizations are true paths, but on top of that, we're also making offerings to true cessations. These are the actual true cessations are in actual fact the stainless jewel, in that they're free from adventitious stains. And also to the Buddha's children, the Bodhisattvas, but also on top of the Bodhisattvas here, solitude realizes, gurus, and so forth. So thank you very much for that, Chris. So then, this one, sorry. Not this one, or is it? Not this one. I'm trying to find the right. Sorry. Okay. So I wanted to look at offerings that do not belong to an owner, unowned offering, because it's really beautiful sequence that Khenpo Kunpen presents here. So it says, offer all desirable riches, all that you see or hear in the expanse of the world systems of the 10 directions. It is all right to think I will offer all things that I can think of, can merely name, or that exist, right? So doing it as extensive as possible. So the other translation of the verse from the translation of Khenpo Kunpen says, whatever flowers and fruits there are, and whatever kinds of medicine, whatever jewels exist in the world, and whatever clean and pleasing waters there are. Furthermore, I offer all things that exist. Sorry, if I offer all things that exist, then I offer whatever flowers might grow in the pure realms or in the impure realms of gods, nagas, and humans, in water or in a meadow, such as the white lotus, the mandarava flower, or the utpal lotus. I offer whatever fruits there are, such as the birwa fruit, the mango fruit, or barley, rice, and wheat. And I offer whatever forms of kinds of medicine, medicinal stones or medicinal plants, medicines such as the king of medicines, Gorochana, and the 6 excellent substances. I offer the precious wish-fulfilling jewel that grants all that is needed and wanted in this world. I offer whatever jewels exist, such as beryl, sapphire, and others. Thus I offer water endowed with 8 qualities. Sorry?
Yeah.
All right. So as it said in a sutra, cooling, tasty, light, and soft, pure water free from impurity, which when drinking neither harms the stomach nor harms the throat. So thus I offer water endowed with 8 qualities, the water of Lake Manasarovar and the 4 great rivers that spring from different mouths on its 4 sides. The Ganga to the east, the Sindhu to the south, the Vikshu to the west, and Sita to the north. And I offer whatever clean and pleasing waters they are, like the 7 pleasant pools as Mount Sumeru, which is Mount Meru. Even the incomparable Lord Atisha remarked, the water in Tibet is so excellent that by offering this water alone, the accumulations can be gathered. That was once upon a time. You know, if you travel to Tibet now, the water is just as polluted, many river, as in other places, unfortunately. Then stanza 3 says, jewel mountains and likewise forests, remote and joyful places, heavenly trees ornamented and bedecked with flowers, as well as trees laden with beautiful fruits, bending down the branches. I offer mountains like the king of all mountains, Mount Sumeru, made of 4 jewels and the 7 golden mountains. And likewise, I offer remote and beautiful places called forest clearings, which are encircled by sandalwood trees and the like. It's actually quite nice if you have this text, if you have this text on your computer and you have time at home, it's actually nice to take time in your meditation and to build up this visualization as you go. I think that at the beginning, it's quite hard to keep everything in mind, but if you do have time and you take the time actually to build up your visualization of offerings, at some point down the track, you'll be able to make everywhere this amazing offering. So it's really good thing really nice thing to train it. Then it says, I offer places which are like cleansed turquoise mandalas, beautified by a display of various flowers. Since no streams of people pass by during the daytime and there is no noise at night, they are remote and joyful. I offer heavenly trees ornamented and bedecked with flowers of various colors, beautiful like mosaic clusters, as well as trees that are so laden with beautiful fruits of perfect color, fragrance, and taste, like grapes and others, that at the weight of the multitude is bending down like the branches, making them hang low. Verse 4 says, fragrances in the realms of gods and the like, incense, wish-granting trees and jewel trees. Untilled, you say? Untilled, and naturally grown crops, and furthermore, ornaments that are worthy to be offered. I offer fragrances of trees which exist in the realms of gods, nagas, and the like, such as white sandalwood trees. I offer naturally risen substances like aloe wood, as well as manufactured incense. I offer wish-granting trees like the Parajita tree, and others which grant all the mind can conceive of or fathom, and manifold jewel trees like those in Sukhabati and other fields, which are made out of the 7 precious substances such as gold and so forth. I offer many kinds of crops like salu rice, which are naturally grown untilled and without the sowing of seeds, and furthermore, in addition to this, sorry, I almost sneezed. I do not offer my sneezing. And in addition to these offerings, I offer any existing number of ornaments that are worthy to be offered, but cannot all be individually mentioned. Lakes and pools adorned with lotuses, wild geese endowed with most beautiful voices, all these which do not belong to an owner within the reaches of infinite space. I offer the 4 great and famous lakes. I offer great lakes such as turquoise lakes endowed with immaculate radiance, ornamented with 5 colors lotuses, and many small pools adorned with lotuses. They're beautified by various kinds of birds such as wild geese and swans, showing their lovely feathers, which are as white as the color of a conch, as yellow as the color of gold, as red as the color of coral, and as green as the color of turquoise. They are endowed with resounding beautiful voices, most melodious and pleasant. I offer whatever exists, such as the light of the sun, and of the moon that shines luminously in the east, the pleasant fragrance of incense, forests of sandalwoods, which abound everywhere in the south, white snow mountains of butter as food for the gods, which glow brightly in the west, and waterfalls of blue offering water that are sparkling pure in the north. Amongst all these, for each individual offering, such as flowers and so forth, the special distinction of its quantity is that it includes everything that exists within the reaches of infinite space, meaning all there is as far as immeasurable space extends. The special extension of faultless is that all these offerings, which do not belong to an owner, are like the riches of the continent of Kurava. Then a point that I wanted to mention with respect to that is there is a special distinction concerning the presentation. It says in the root verse, creating this in my mind, or taking it up in my mind. It means that you keep them in your mind, which means that you become mindful of them. You visualize them, and you create the attitude, these are mine. And then you offer them without any miserliness. It's quite hard, isn't it? Kind of when you think of things that do not belong to you, it's quite easy to offer them. You think that I do not lose anything. There are no expenses on my account. I can easily give them away for free. So here the distinction that is made in this commentary is that you need to think of all of those things that as this is mine. This is mine, and then without any sense of loss, you happily offer them to Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, the Dharma, and so forth. So I guess that it's quite, it's quite hard. I think that sometimes it's maybe useful to think of things that actually do belong to you. Things that belong to you. Like, for example, think of buying a new car, totally fresh with all the plastic covers still there. Sorry, Paul, but the seats are covered with plastic sheets, and it's like fresh from the shop. Then come along a lama that you find that is really dear to your heart, and try to think of how it would be like, to know that you've bought this car to yourself. This comes a lama that you really like, and then without any sense of loss, you're giving them away this car. No hesitation, not tight holding onto it. You're just offering it from the bottom of your heart. Please make use of it for the sake of sentient beings. It's pretty hard if you try to do it sincerely. Then, so to the same degree, you should think of everything that exists in the world, right? Everything that exists in the world, you think that this is mine. And then without any sense of loss, you're just going to relinquish it. It does not belong to you anymore. You cannot make use of that for your own personal use anymore. You're just giving it away to others. So I think that this is the type of visualization that we need to do. Otherwise, it's quite, as I said before, it's quite easy to offer things that were not yours to begin with. It's much harder to offer things that are yours. And that's why it seems that here Shantideva begins with offering unowned offering, because it's easier to offer them, but still you need to think that these are mine. So, any questions before we move on to offering one's body?
I
do.
How does it work with the mind play of extravagance? Like when, I don't know, if you've got something, you've seen something, or you've got something that you particularly saw, and you went, oh my gosh, that would, this person would love it. So you get it, you want to give it, you offer it, but you hesitate then, thinking that it may look like it's too extravagant. Mm-hmm. How do you play that out in your mind? Like, is there such a thing as too extravagant?
I think that, in terms of making offerings, when I look at my Tibetan teachers, there is nothing that is too extravagant. I think that, for us, I think that this is, again, coming from a non-Asian background. We sometimes hold back. We think that they don't need my money. They don't need that extravagance. This is too much. What about poor people? I'm offering all these riches and fruit and food and so forth, but wouldn't it be better to offer it to poor people? And I think that, again, this is being too intellectual about it. Just kind of, the idea is that you think of everything that is perfect, everything that is good. If you could offer the best of the best to someone that kind of you have this high appreciation, high esteem, you would do that. No, so I think that in this case, you don't have to intellectualize it too much. There is nothing too extravagant.
And I recently read I think it was a teacher, and he was on his way, he was in Tibet, and he was on his way to a town or somewhere like that, and they knew he was coming. And so they all got dressed up in the best regalia, and they had the bands and the flags and all of this, and they all came
contortionists. Contortionists.
They had everything, and they all came out to meet a teacher, and he just wanted to hide.
Yeah, he said that those are demons.
He was just horrified at how.
Yes, it's a motivation.
Yeah, well, and I guess that's the point, isn't it? That he thought they had become too. What's the good word?
But that was counteracting his like any pride or from his side. They were making offerings from their side.
Well, I think that there was. I'm not sure what was because I read through that account also, but to be honest, I wasn't sure what the point that this account was trying to make. I think that here, kind of, here we're just looking at the act of making offerings, for taking up the mind of enlightenment. I'm not sure that it's the same thing with, the procession that welcomed Atisha. Yeah, I'm not sure because I read through that account, but I'm not sure. I wasn't sure when I read it what was the point that.
And maybe I think that is the point, Yaki, that they were just showing off.
All right.
They were showing off. Look, thank goodness hooray, you're here, and let's have a big party, or anything like that, rather than.
And I look amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But rather than, oh my God, thank goodness you're here, so we need your help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that also when when offerings are made, when you look at this, the 6 preliminary practices. So you clean the place, you arrange representation, and then it says that you arrange offering, but it says that they need to be arranged without deceit, and also offerings that were obtained without wrong livelihood. And without deceit means that you offer them not thinking that if others would see me making those great offerings, they would think that I just kick ass in making offerings, that I'm just amazing. They would think, so you're not aiming at impressing others, you just sincerely want to make offerings. So in that sense, if you think of, going back to how extravagant can you be, if your idea is that I'm making it because I want to offer the best of the best, this is how I'm going to do that. And I think that, when you look at, for example, when you look at Japanese culture and the beautiful way that they arrange gardens and forests and, those rock pools and so forth, it's worlds apart from the extravagant way, the bling of the Tibetan culture, so it's not that there's right and wrong, you can also offer that without all the bling, and it's still an exquisite offering to make, so long as, it's not involved with thinking that I need to arrange it so that others would think that I'm awesome in making offerings. If you think that I'm going to offer everything that is beautiful, then you can offer Japanese Zen gardens and all the bling of the Tibetan tradition.
I mean, it's also similar to that story that I think were you telling me the other day? I was telling you, like, how much do you offer? They kept on there, no, that's not enough.
Yeah.
That's not enough. When obviously the person could see that it's not so much how much, it's just the genuineness, the sincerity.
Yeah, I think that's also taken from the accounts of Atisha. So, he said, I told them to do the offerings 3 times over. And, and the 3rd time it says that it seems that the indication was that's just, barely passing the mark. Probably the ways of explaining that, maybe kind of he thought that, they were too miserly in doing that, or kind of they were half-handed in doing that, whereas the accumulation of merit that they need to have in order to get the vow was insufficient, so they were holding back, not having enough merit. Maybe that's how it was illustrated. Sometimes kind of when you look at accounts like that, it's hard to really stick only with the words. You need to visualize the situation and think of, or the scene, and think what actually did happen there and what's the message. Sometimes things are taken from Indian and Tibetan culture, and for us it's hard to relate to. It's like sometimes it's really difficult to contextualize it. I mean, when you look at it, seems that when you look at the way of making offerings here, it seems that it's a traditional way of treating a guest that maybe was once upon a time in the Indian tradition, and then adopted into the Tibetan tradition. But still, when an important guest is coming to a Tibetan family, it's not that you send them off first of all to take a shower.
No,
I mean,
exactly. That's exactly
yeah.
right.
No, and also we don't do it.
Explained as being a footpath
Mm.
because it's for your feet.
Yeah.
Before you come inside,
Mm.
to
Yeah, it's a
You're
footpath.
washing with a towel to dry them.
Yeah, but here when we look at the actual offering bath and a bathhouse and so forth, actually the text, Kumpen Khenpo's text, is just amazing, kind of how you arrange everything in the bathhouse, and it's so zhuzhed up with pearls and pillars and parcels and so forth. And there's some point in the commentary that I looked at, it said that then you invite the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and they hang the clothes on a rack and they walk into this bathing house. So it's like, it's quite a thing to visualize. Madhu?
No, the same thing which Honorable Shukla was
Hmm.
say, like it's still a tradition. If you go to villages, like you have to clean your feet before coming in.
Yeah.
So, and they hand over the water to drink and clean the feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially I don't want, and you don't never take your footwear inside the home. So
Yeah.
just wash inside.
Yeah, it's actually quite nice when you go into temples in India. But yeah, actually, I really like it, particularly when you go into a temple in India in the summertime, where like everything is roasting, and then you have like a couple of seconds at least to dip your feet in cold water that other people have washed their feet in. But sorry,
That everyone before you was put their feet
Yeah.
in.
sharing is caring.
Yeah, one big family. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so offerings one's own body. So that was covered in verses 8 and 9. So let's just put them on the screen for a second. Let's look at our commentary, Getza Dhammarinchen, the one that we've covered today. So, to the conquerors and the children, I always offer my body completely. May the supreme brave ones enjoy me. With respect, I make myself your slave. Your slave is pretty. No, I would translate it as your servant. So I think that slave has also like a cruel connotation, isn't it? Being perfectly held by you, I shall without fear benefit sentient beings in existence. I shall leave earlier negativities behind in every respect, and henceforth not create other negativities. So going for a second to the other commentary, which I think explained it in a nice way. Section 90. So it says, to the victor, the Buddha, who is triumphant over the four Maras, to the Buddhas, the Bhagavan, his sons, the assembly of Bodhisattvas, I shall offer from now on, throughout all future lifetimes, constantly and unceasingly, all my bodies, right? So not only the body of this life, but all my bodies, which I must give up, although I cherish them. Supreme heroic beings, Bodhisattvas, sons of the victors, such as the protectors of the three families. The protectors of the three families are Chenrezig, Manjushri, and Vajrapani. Please accept me completely. Having accepted having accepted me, make me your own, and I shall be your subject, respectful in body, speech, and mind. Having become yours, I shall act according to your teachings. So I wanted to emphasize this part of having accepted me, make me your own. And I shall be your subject, respectful in body, speech, and mind. Having become yours, I shall act according to your teaching. So when we offer our body, speech, and mind to the lamas, when we offer our body, speech, and mind to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, the idea is that not only we give them away without that sense of tight holding, but we think that now they do no longer, my body is no longer just mine, or my speech and mind are no longer just mine. I've offered them to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and they now they are the owners of my body, speech, and mind. So Buddhas and Bodhisattvas act solely for the benefit of other sentient beings. They abstain from negative actions. They apply, no, of course they don't have any, Buddhists don't have any stains. But let's say that they teach how to apply antidotes to afflictive states of mind, to put a stop to negative actions. So if I've offered my body, speech, and mind to them, my job now is to behave in a way that they instruct me to. You know, I'm no longer free to indulge in my afflictions. So it's actually quite an nice perspective to take when we think of our day-to-day behavior. You know, sometimes during the day we get annoyed with others, we have sense of attachment, we have a bit of jealousy or pride over others and so forth. So it's good to remind ourselves that we have offered our body, speech, and mind to Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, is honestly the Dalai Lama, Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So how would it be like to think that I've given, for example, Lama Zopa Rinpoche my body? So if you think of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's teachings of loving kindness and patience, avoiding anger and so forth, how would it be permissible to still indulge in anger without at least trying to curb it down? If I've offered it to Lama Zopa Rinpoche, in no way is going to be pleased with me behaving in that way. Now, so it's not only that we think of making these offerings in relation to this verse now, but we also need to think about it later on when our afflictions arise, and thinking that actually I've made that promise that I'm giving it away to those great beings. Now, if I do give way to my own afflictions, I'm breaking my promise. I'm no longer allowed or should behave in a way that I have been up until now. I should make a greater effort. So that's with offering my body. Any questions?
I was going to ask about Kusali,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, that is a ritual, a tantric ritual,
Thank you.
where they offer the body, his body. And the reason why, and I mean, the way it's done is that, you know, you leave your body and become you leave your impure body and you become, you become purity, whatever form that takes. Then your impure body, you then offer that. And from what I can gather, the reason why you do it is because you have nothing else. You know, Kusali apparently was a very poor practitioner, and that was really all he had to offer.
So,
do you know much about Kusali? You know, it is an interesting, you know, because I know initially it's quite horrific to think about giving your body, cutting your body up and putting it into a big cauldron and zoozing it up and then offering it. You know, but, you know, I sort of understand the
there are different meanings to the word kusali. I have to look it up. A couple of years ago, I attended teachings with Taisuttu Rinpoche, and he explained the different meanings of kusali, but I have to go back to the explanation and try to put it out. That's one kind of, I think that's one way of interpreting kusali kind of, which is involved with a Chö or Vajravari, certain, Vajravari practice. Yeah. Did you have anything in mind?
I had in mind when we do the inner mandala
Mm-hmm.
and my body and mind and my friends and so forth, you're offering everything up, but you're purifying first and offering it purely, not offering your garbage.
Yeah.
So that in that way, you're transforming it into everything that's pure.
Yeah. Normally, when you do such practices, then you know, all those practices begin with I think, you know, a certain visualization, then kind of, you know, you visualize some impure aspects, then you purify them into emptiness, and then from the state of emptiness there arises pure. Yeah. So we have, so all right, just a second. So we spoke of offering unowned substances, then offering one's own body. Remember that the reason one offers unowned substances is that because I'm poor in merit, because I'm poor, I'm destitute. So it seems that what Shantideva is saying here is that I'm actually poor, not just poor in possessions, but I'm poor in general. I don't have many resources because I haven't accumulated merit before. So if you are poor, if you are destitute, then you think of offering everything around you. You know, everything that is beautiful, you can take it up in your mind, think that this is now mine, and offer it. And through that, you create merit. And in the future, it depends upon merit, you have hopefully more resources. Then you'd be able to make offerings with your own resources. Madhu?
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, like Shantideva was son of a king.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's generalizing
Mm.
in this case instead of saying that I'm.
Well, when I said yes, actually, I can't remember the life story of Shantideva. So maybe Shantideva was a son of a king. Yeah, this is a general way of contextualizing it. But also, I think that you know, when you think of, even though he was a son of a king, still he was at the end a renunciate. You know, so I think that probably, I'm just wondering, you know, at that point in time, it was, I think, an 8th century master. So when you decided to become a renunciate, you had nothing. Maybe that was his spirit. You know, even though he came from a royal family, it was still, as a renunciate, he had nothing.
Right.
Maybe.
But I thought you were saying earlier on, the reason why we give unowned offerings is because we can do it more genuinely.
Yeah. So I think that that's kind of the reason that Shantideva begins with, first of all, making unknown offering in some sense because it's easier than offering your own stuff. But then on top of that, it says that the actual reason that is cited in his verses is because I'm destitute. Sorry, it's not this. Let's look at the verse. It's in, yeah, I have no merit and I'm very poor, in verse 7. Yeah. Then, so this is for offering unowned substances, then offerings one's own body. And then mentally emanated offerings, we begin with ablutions. So one thing that I wanted to bring up before we close this session is this. So it says, mentally created offerings are 2 types: offering of bathing, drying, and so forth, and then the offering of enjoyments. So, no, it seems, as I said, it kind of, this is the way that you would treat a guest. So of this, the first is conducted in accordance with the mundane ancient Indian offering customs of bathing before and after eating food, washing the feet and anointing them with fragrance, or decorating the head with the flower garland. Although the victor and his sons are not stained by defects, in order to cleanse by washing the stains of the three doors of myself and others, other beings, I offer bathing to the deity. So this is, Geshe mentioned this practice of offering bath water. You know, you might have seen that yourself. So sometimes when in front of an altar, in certain rituals of offering a bath, then the master would, might hold a mirror or a vase in the hand, and they would tilt the vase and wash some, and offer those bathing water. And the verse that they recite in Tibetan says that although your body doesn't have stains, still in order to cleanse the stains of my own body, I'm offering you this bath. And similarly, as Geshe mentioned, although your mind doesn't have any stains of afflictions and so forth, since my mind has stains, I offer these in order to to cleanse the stains of my own mind. All right, so for those of you who have the text at home, I encourage you also to read through just the way that you visualize the bath and how you invite the Buddhas to take a bath. It's really nice. I think that it gives you more to work with in your visualization. It's good to also take the time in your personal meditation to try to visualize all of those different things, because when you become familiar with that, just I guess that you can accumulate more and more merit, and you can easily accumulate more merit.
Is that Kenpo?
Yeah. So it's Kempo Kunpen. So it's in the second lot. It's also found in the Nectar of Manjushu's speech in one book. So if you have the book, which is also a very nice book to have, then you can look at chapter number 2. All right. So thank you very much, people. I have a couple of things that people asked me to mention. So one of them is that for those of you using Zoom on your personal devices, then you might have to upgrade your Zoom version. So do it. And then Alan Carter sent me a message a few days ago. He said that he spoke with Geshe Kesamwamo, who is going to do the translation into German of His Honesty's Empowerment, Chenrezic Empowerment. And she said that in her communication with His Honesty's office, it was indicated that if you watch the live streaming, then you can obtain the empowerment. But even if you have some other commitments of the streaming doesn't work and you watch that clip later on YouTube, apparently you can also attend the empowerment by that. So this is like a word to mouth thing. So Alan Carter told me that Kesawam told him that the private office told her. So I hope that this is not Chinese whispers, do you say?
No, I've heard that.
All right.
You asked the comment to share a link to exactly as you said there.
Cool. All right. So I'll put the prayers on the screen if I find them. Just a second. All right. Nyodo da lama sangye drugyune do wachikyama lupa de salago pasho. Dorin poche make pama kegyochi ke panyamba me pa gone gondo pewasho. Kowe shinkandi pendande wa malu jungwen chenre siwan tenzing yatsoi Shape site badu tengyu chi. Tu son jan chin jangon gawe. Den zin kyong pe we kun zo do po se. Cho sun ko we le mon tu do. Ba ha da so du chi kon du sha ten shu. Thank you.
Thanks, Katsun.
Thanks, Katsun.
Thank you. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Terry.
You're probably the nicest thing that's going to happen this